Now that the dust has settled, I'm going to talk about how the Miami Dolphins can go from pretenders to contenders and Super Bowl champions. I have 3 steps the Dolphins need to take that next step in this team and winning a Super Bowl. That first step being they need to simplify their offense and have more of a traditional drop-back game, similar to the plays that you see run by the San Francisco 49ers, the Houston Texans with Bobby Slowick, as well as the Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur, all coming from the same Shanahan system that Mike McDaniel has come from. Obviously, Mike McDaniel has come from that tree, but the offense we're running right now, in my opinion, is very complex and complicated, and there's reasons for that. I think because of the offensive line play, he's really just trying to protect the O-line from having to really drop back pass a lot. As shown by this chart, CK Parrott on Twitter came up with, really shows how little the Dolphins drop back pass, especially in comparison to the rest of the NFL for, a 10-year period. That is insane. And I've heard similar sentiment shared from the likes of Bobby Peters, who is an author and writes books every year on NFL offenses, as well as Louis Riddick. Now, obviously, I pride myself on my football knowledge, but I'm willing to admit these guys know more about football than me, and most likely you. So I really trust these guys' opinions, and I agree with it from what I've seen. This Dolphins offense, the main reason they struggle is they beat themselves because of mistakes that compound, and it's because this offense takes so much going right for it to execute, whether it's the timing of the play, the route depth, and where the receiver's supposed to be. Like, all of it has to line up, and it's really predicated on getting the ball out and thrown to a spot. And when that isn't happening, then the offense struggles. And the reason I think they base it on timing so much as people want to make it about Tua, it's about the offensive line and the lack of trust for them to be able to hold that up in pure pass protection. That falls in line perfectly with key number 2, which is to build up the offensive line. Now, the Dolphins have a ton of free agent offensive linemen hitting the market between Robert Hunt, Connor Williams, I believe Kendall Lamb, Teron Armstead is probably going to retire. So right now, it looks like the only current Dolphin lineman on contract is Austin Jackson. So the Dolphins need to figure out the offensive line, not only to return to the level they showed this past year, but to take the next step so that they can actually drop back pass from left tackle, left guard, center, right guard. Obviously, Armstead, if he retires, will be gone, but left guard Isaiah Wynn is a free agent. They can bring him back, but he's coming off injury, as well as Connor Williams. And as much as I love Connor Williams, he's towards ACL, I believe, the Titans game, so he's probably not going to be back until maybe the beginning of the season or a couple weeks in. And a lot of players coming off injury take a couple of months to fully get back to themselves, so be a potential risk for the Dolphins to take, albeit it might be worth it because he's a tremendous player. Robert Hunt, obviously also a free agent. He's going to be highly touted for by a lot of fan bases. I mean, I'm friends with 2 people that are already asking me about Robert Hunt, so it should be interesting to see how the Dolphins approach the offensive line, but it needs to at least get brought back together, if not improve, to be able to take that next step, whether it's in the draft. Finally, the Dolphins have a lot of draft capital where they can use on the offensive line. McDaniel has shown the ability to develop some of these offensive linemen with Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg taking steps. Now, like I mentioned, the scheme was very beneficial for the offensive line. They weren't asked to hold up in pass protection too much, but I will say they did improve. This is the best the offensive line has been in years, but in order to get to where we want to go, they need to advance even more, which the trajectory of a lot of these players on the offensive side of the ball under Mike McDaniel has all been up, with Tua, Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg. All of these guys have taken the next step, but they just need to continue that improvement, which they haven't shown any reason that they can't. The last key, I'm really going to be talking about the defense. I have a lot of confidence in this defense under Vic Fangio, and if you followed Vic Fangio's trends throughout the year, the first year he usually takes over a defense, it's middle of the pack to bad, and over the course of him being the defensive coordinator, it just skyrockets in improvement. From the Chicago Bears a couple years ago, the San Francisco 49ers, it just happens wherever he goes. Once the players learn the system, they really go. It allows him to do more schematically because he can put more on their plate because they understand more. So I have a lot of confidence that this defense schematically is just going to improve, but there are some losses. Obviously, Christian Wilkins is a big free agent, and it doesn't seem like the Dolphins are going to be able to bring him back based off the video I just uploaded previous, Chris Greer talking about him. So that is a big loss the Dolphins are going to need to figure out, as well as what are they going to do with Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb coming off the injuries. They're going to be back, but they're not going to be back right away, as well as, like I mentioned about Connor Williams, when these guys come back from these serious knee injuries or lower half injuries, they might be back on the field, but they don't return to their full selves a couple months after they return. So how are they going to go about replacing that production when they're not on the field and when they're still recovering from the injury? Hopefully we bring Andrew Van Ginkel back, thedolphinsdive.com, for this dope merch. But he's not going to come at a cheap price tag anymore because of the year he showed, at least in my opinion. Hopefully the Dolphins can get him back for cheap, but I just don't think it's likely. What happens with Jerome Baker? He could be a cap casualty. We have David Long under contract, I believe. Honestly, I'm not even sure about that. I think it might have been a one-year deal with David Long. So what are we going to do at inside linebacker? Deshaun Elliott's a free agent. He shouldn't be too expensive, but he's still going to be a free agent, as well as Xavier Howard being a cap casualty. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Dolphins do on the defensive side of the ball. I have confidence that it's going to be good because, like I said, the Vic Fangio improvement, he's going to have more say in the players that we bring in if we're replacing some of these guys from free agency. But I'm just interested to see what this defense does. But they're going to have to get it right in order for the Dolphins to take that next step and be Super Bowl contenders. Albeit, I'm confident it's going to happen, but how they get there, I'm going to be breaking down this entire offseason. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date. Appreciate you guys for watching, and until next time, I'll catch y'all.